It's time to review the front pages of our national dailies. We'll start with Daily Trust. Middle East war pushes up petrol, food prices, and that's on pages 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. If you want more on that headline, many fear dead in Adamawa communal clash, and that's on page 7 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Iran names Khamenei's son Mujtaba new supreme leader, and that's on page 41. Lawyers ADC to ICPC charge or release El Rufai. That's on page 6. Borno, Boko Haram in control of Ngoshi, says locals. That's on page 5. 7 die, 18 injured in Benue, Lagos auto crashes. That's on page 10 of the Daily Trust. Taraba residents decry high rent, and that's on page 33 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Grab yourself a copy and stay informed.
All right, next up we have the Punch newspaper right in front. Rising fuel prices, NNPC may supply foreign crude to Dangote refinery. Third fuel price hike looms. Motorists growing as petrol nears 1,200 naira per litre. Dangote suspends fuel sale briefly amid rising prices, marketers say. Nigeria triples crude imports from the United States in 1 year amid rising local shortage. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. At the top, we have a debt servicing surpasses capital spending by 3.9 trillion naira in 2 years. That is on page 33 of the Punch. Pope warns of regional spillover from Israel-Iran war. That's on page 31. FAC subcommittees get 11.5 billion naira for 2026 budget planning. That's on page 54 of the Punch. At the bottom, we have rising opposition attacks spark concerns ahead of 2027 elections. That's on page 41. 2027 Lagos EPC vows to reverse 2023 presidential loss. That's on page 31. And last but not the least, International Women's Day, Tinubu, governors seek stronger policies for women's empowerment. That's on page 44. And that's all on Punch. Make sure you grab yourself a copy and stay informed.
Next up, we have the Guardian newspaper. Shareholders may forfeit dividends as CBN penalizes insider abuse, and that's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Walk the talk on security emergency, Indumi tells Tinubu, and that's on page 3. PDP governors preach peace ahead of a court verdict on party leadership, and that's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Women stakeholders hamp on empowerment inclusion on International Women's Day, and that's on page 3. Customs blames banks, others for failed 24 hours port operations, and that's on page 4. NIDO flay arrest of 42 Nigerians in Mozambique, demand release, and that's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. 2027 polls will be Nigerians against bad leadership, says Obi, and that's on page 7. International Women's Day, NHRC raises alarm over early marriages, and that's on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Syrup sues federal government over alleged mass phone tapping regulations, and that's on page 4. Petrol price may hit 1,400 naira per litre as Dangote refinery loading stills, and that's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Bandits attack Sokoto community as Zamfara holds emergency security meeting, and that's on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Grab yourself a copy and stay informed. And joining us this morning to review the front pages of our national dailies is the former director, News Voice of Nigeria, Ben Shamang. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with Daily Trust. We've seen the conflict in the Middle East, and apparently it's affecting the price of petrol in Nigeria, and this is also moving to food prices. What is your take on the Middle East war as it pushes up petrol and food prices?
Yes, it is just obvious. I mean, the Middle East is boiling, and many of these countries in the Middle East also are depending so much on oil, refined or crude, for export and domestic consumption. And many countries of the world are also depending on that. Remember the Strait of Hormuz, where ships will always have to pass either with crude oil or refined oil. So the crisis is bound to affect that. But my worry in Nigeria is that The war is about 9 years and about 9 days old, but you can see the ripple effects already in the country. Tell me that already we have the pump price hike in the country over 1,000 naira per liter. I mean, in Nigeria, and it's just not the best of times for Nigeria, for Nigerians. And of course, we're also talking of the ripple effect when it comes to transportation. And once it involves transportation of goods, foodstuff, and all that stuff, of course, the boomeranging effect will have to go back to our kitchen, we have to go back to our schools, we have to go back to our markets and everything we want to buy. So quite a lot of things are wrong. And we expect, just like the Pope and some other people are saying, that there has to be a way out of this. Let there be peace. And when you have two or three opposing sides simply saying no to one another, it means we are in for a very long kind of a wait. We pray that humanity is brought to bear here.
All right, now, Mr. Ben Shamang, still on the war or the conflict happening between Israel, United States, and Iran. Iran has now named a new supreme leader, Khamenei's son, Mujtaba. Now, we've seen that reports that United States President Donald Trump has said that any leader or any person to lead Iran should or would be coming from his own choices, or he has to have a say in that. Now, what would you say about it? And, the procession of having the son of Ali Khamenei, Mujtaba, leading Iran.
Yeah, I should just say congratulations to the Iranians if that is what they want. But for Trump, when he says he has to play a role as to who becomes the spiritual leader there, well, gives a kind of a very serious demand on his part. And at the point, you also hear Israel saying that whoever is so named is also at a risk. So, again, the world is not yet having peace, even with this appointment. So, how do we get out of this? We're talking about nations being affected by this war. You have, missiles doing intercontinental crossing. They pass through some other countries to either reach Israel or to reach Iran. So quite a lot of things are wrong, and that is why Nigerians and humanity, everyone is saying, let there be peace in this region. So it's not yet Uhuru as far as I'm concerned, because America is singing a different song, Israel another song, and of course Iranians are saying this is what they want. But again, what about those who have been protesting against the leadership, the spiritual leadership of Iran? What is their position now as it is? So the whole world is still waiting to see how these things play out and how it's going to end.
All right, Mr. Ben Shamang, let's look at politics with lawyers. ADC to ICPC charge or release El-Rufai. I mean, we have seen the detention of the former governor of Kaduna State in the ICPC custody since the EFCC granted him bail on February 18, 2026. And this is sparking a lot of debate, saying that his detention is without any legal backing and it's unlawful. What is your take on this?
Well, this is coming when the same ICPC is saying that they have uncovered so many property traceable to El-Rufai in Egypt. I recall that it was sending or withholding somebody or holding somebody in order to do some investigations. This is one of the examples. And just like they are demanding, either charge him to court or set him free. But I do know that some days ago he was actually charged to court. It now depends on what the court will say. They can simply say, okay, still hold on to him while doing your own investigations. Because sometimes when you release suspects or someone you're accusing or someone being accused, the fear is that such a person goes to tamper with evidence. And some people, I can see those who tested El-Rufai's power in Kaduna, are simply saying that it is just like day and break. It's a merry-go-round. Today you have it hot, tomorrow you have it so cool, so chilly, so nice. And that's the story of El-Rufai. When he was governor of Kaduna State, in fact, many people suffered under his own application of power, and that application of power went far beyond what the court will say. Well, the court will rule this way, he will go opposite direction. And so those who are now calling for El-Rufai's release, I am wondering whether they were available to advise El-Rufai. I can also see Peter's side, the owner of IBTC Bank. At the point, this was a man who said that Nigeria should just print one single 5,000 naira note, not 1,000, 5,000 naira note. That the money was too bulky. In other words, this is an elitist kind of a group, and he has aligned with the El-Rufai's group, and he's saying that set this man free. These are people who have manipulated the country. They have, taken charge of the country. Peter said never saw what El-Rufai did those days. And if therefore El-Rufai is being accused of many things, it is good that investigations will take place. This is not for the masses. It is for everybody. The law is no friend to anybody. Just that you have to respect the law so that the law respects you. And that is the story of El-Rufai today.
All right, Mr. Shamang, let's look at this headline. Borno attack, Boko Haram in control of Goshe, says locals. Now, I've seen an attack by Boko Haram terrorists in Goshe town in Goza local government area about 5 days ago, and it was a really deadly attack, leaving soldiers and civilians dead, as well as some abducted, with more than 100 women and children during the attack. Now, we've seen that, according to locals, that Goshe is in control, it has been taken control of by Boko Haram terrorists. Now, aside from that, we've seen that out of the 214 soldiers that were stationed there, only 36 out of them remained. Now, it is quite devastating. What is your take on this, and how do you think it should go about with them having to occupy that area?
Yeah, honestly, when the locals said that Boko Haram terrorists have taken over these communities, we hope too that government should just simply come and debunk that. And in debunking that, would they have to show us that the communities are back to their places, not that we have a kind of an occupation force that will come from nowhere, burn houses, kill, and still supports the fact that Americans should come and train Nigerian soldiers. That Ndume is part of the problem. The Americans just came how many months ago? Just about 2 or 3. How are they the problems? Just that we are not facing the realities. When Boko Haram first struck, you could see that people from Borno State, you know, they all came out en masse. They never minded their religion, never minded their tribe. The youths came together and formed what it was called the Civilian Joint Task Force. I could see ladies there. Among them, I was going to Maiduguri constantly to see how the war was progressing. And so when people begin to blame some other people, instead of coming together, let's fight this thing together. And worst of all, those who are the critics, you see them having nice time in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and all that, leaving those who are experiencing hell on earth to just continue to suffer. And I don't just know why government would not just recruit, when I say recruit, youths who are ready to fight. Not just that, there are some soldiers who have retired. I mean, if they are willing and able to join and still do the fighting, why not? Let's join this fight. A situation where you have crop of officers, either police, air force, navy, they are just going when they are still very strong, they are still needed. They just said no, the law says you spend 35 or you are now 60 years, so you can go. There are people who are very strong and willing. All the expertise they have, you just say they should just go just like that. I think it's not well for us. Look at some villages occupied in Zamfara state. Some villages in southern Kaduna, you just see that many villages around Kajuru areas, they are not there. Kachia local government, there will be fine communities run away because they are under continuous attacks, just as we say, God, may God hear the prayers of Christians, may God hear the prayers of Muslims. What about the rest? Can we simply call one God and say, help Nigeria, and we move? Instead of just staying in our bedrooms and praying, we should move and face these people. And we need the equipment. People are ready to face these people. Yeah, so, but when we just simply say government is not doing enough, government too should also do enough so that we route these people and take them to where they're supposed to be. And that will be hell. We eliminate them.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ben Shamang, former Director News, Voice of Nigeria, for shedding more light on the front pages of our national dailies.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, two ladies, this week.
All right. Now, with that, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you to all our callers, our viewers, and our guests as well for contributing so much to Daybreak. I am Hawa Adamikiawa. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. so you don't miss out on everything on Daybreak. Have a wonderful day.
And I am Mimuna Bagudu. Follow us on all of our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more news and programs. Do have a great day.